Hey guys, today we're checking out the archetype for Diaboromon, and we're gonna see if it's any good or if it needs some serious support. Diaboromon's one of my favorite Digimon, and I have been playing him since as long as I've been able to, since since 1.5 came out. But he didn't really get his own deck until BT5, Battle for Omni, when he got a lot of support. So let's see what cards he has in his archetype and see if it still holds up today in the current meta of EX3, which will soon be BT11. So of course we're gonna start with our babies. So here's Sunamon from BT2. So he says, your turn. While you have another Digimon in play with the same name as this Digimon gets plus 2000 DP. So you know, it's a pretty decent baby. More like a fifth egg you'd run in a deck. It's not like an amazing card. The only other archetype specific baby is Sunamon from BT5, and he's just a lot better. He says, when attacking once per turn, if this Digimon has unidentified in its type, trigger draw one. Yeah, draw power is just a lot better. There is a Kuramon that we'll talk about later that pretty much has a ability that can do this, but just a little bit better. I just noticed today, he doesn't have his pre-evolution like this one does, like most babies do. Do you guys know of any other Digi eggs that have that too, without their pre-evo? Normally they have them. Anyway, those are the eggs in the Diaboromon archetype. So let's move on to our rookies. And those are Kuramon. So first we have Kuramon from BT2. So he costs 2 to play, 0 to Digivolve, he has 2k DP. His inheritance that says, your turn. When you play another Digimon with the same name as this Digimon, trigger, draw 1. So I'm sure as you guys know, Diaboromon wants to play tokens, and so Kuramon's role would essentially be whenever you play a token, you get to draw a card. It's a staple in Diaboromon, I would say. Draw power is really great, especially for Diaboromon. It's a slow deck, so you want to draw as much as you can. So yeah, it's a pretty solid rookie. Next we have Kuramon from BT5. So he costs 3 to play, 0 Digivolve, and he has 2k DP. And he says, on play, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. Add 1 Digimon card unidentified in its type, and 1 Errata Sonata card from among them to your hand. Place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. So this will be your main searcher of the deck. There's no other card really that Diaboromon has at the moment that has a lot of like archetype specific searching. So until then, this is a key staple in the deck. If you're gonna run Diaboromon, you're gonna have to run this guy because there's really not much else you can do to search specific unidentified cards and your tamer. So yeah, pretty solid rookie for the archetype. I think that overall, even when we get new support, this card will probably still be relevant. So next we have Kuramon from EX1 Classic Collection. So he costs 2 to play, 0 to Digivolve, he has 2k DP, and his inheritance that says, your turn. For each other Digimon you have in play with the same name as this Digimon gets plus 1000 DP. So as you can see, he can fulfill the role that this baby would do a little bit better, although this guy will guarantee you 2k DP. This guy can boost you a lot more. So like in my opinion, I think it's just better to run the 4 of him and then just run him instead. But yeah, other than that, he's a decent rookie, and it's not really one that you're going to be relying too much on. It's more like a rookie you probably run like maybe 2 of in your deck. So yeah, overall, it's a decent Kuramon. It can make your Diaboromons pretty big. And lastly, we have the promo Kuramon. So Kuramon costs 2 to play, 0 to Digivolve, has 2k DP, and its inheritance says, opponent's turn. This Digimon gets plus 1000 DP. So this card could be helpful. It buffs you on your opponent's turn, which most of your other effects will only trigger on your turn. So there is some merit to this card, but overall, I do feel like it's one of the weakest Kuramons in the card game. It's unfortunate because it is a really cool card. It looks really fantastic. However, yeah, like I said, 1000 DP on your opponent's turn can be pretty useful. However, when it comes to picking out Kuramons, these are just better to choose from. So unfortunately, this really cool promo card is kind of just sent to the wayside, in my opinion. I kind of feel like it's the worst Kuramon in the card game right now. So it looks great. So those are the rookies in the archetype. So now onto our level 4s, which are our Kurasarimons. So this one's from BT2. He costs 5 to play, 2 to Digivolve. He has 4k DP, and his inheritance says, your turn. When you play another Digimon with the same name as this Digimon, gain 1 memory. So again, you're spamming tokens on the board, and when you have those Diaboromons with this guy in the stack, you're gaining a memory for each token you're playing. Just like with the Kuramon, you're drawing a card for each Diaboromon you play. Again, I think this is another important card in the deck. Essentially with the right setup, Digivolve into Diaboromon, play a couple tokens, and you can just extend your turn. Pretty good card, pretty cool card too. I'd say it's a pretty solid staple in the current Diaboromon archetype. So next we have Kurasarimon from BT5, so he costs 5 to play, 2 to Digivolve, he has 4k DP. He says, when Digivolving, if you don't have an Errata Sonata card in play, you may play one from your hand without paying for its memory cost. And his inheritance says, your turn. All your other Digimon with the same name as this Digimon gain Rush. So another cool staple for the Diaboromon archetype, it gives all your tokens Rush and lets you swing with them as soon as you play them. which is really important because you want to be able to overwhelm your opponent as fast as you can and just swing as fast as you can. That's kind of Diaboromon's game. It wants to swarm the board with tokens, and being able to give him rush and like blocker can be really overwhelming if you can actually get it set up. So it looks really cool too. He's rushing down his opponent. So next we have Curse Saruman from EX1. So he costs 4 to play, which is pretty nice. 2 to Digivolve, he has 5k DP. His inheritance says your turn once per turn. When one of your other Digimon with the same name as this Digimon is deleted, unsuspend this Digimon. So this can be a pretty decent card. It basically allows your Diaboromons to attack twice in a turn. Even Inframons if you have that set up too. So it's a pretty cool card. I would say it's not a Curse Saruman you want to rely on too much. More like having maybe 2 or 1 in your deck. Because again, I think these two Curse Saruman just have a more important role. The 4 cost though is really nice. You could definitely drop this guy out and get like a Chimeramon out pretty easily. But again, it does have a very niche role. Your Digimon do have to be deleted in order to unsuspend. So, it's not a bad card. It's just not something to heavily rely on in the deck. It also can combo with like Armageddon, where you can delete a token or something to play him, and you can unsuspend this whatever this guy's stack is in. But I mean, as cool as this card is, it is once per turn, and it can be a bit situational, so you don't want to rely too heavily on it. But yeah, it's a pretty decent card though. So next we have the first promo Curse Saruman. So he costs 4 to play, 2 to Digivolve. He's got 5k DP. And he has blocker, and then when attacking, lose 2 memory. So it's a decent card because he's blocker. It's a 4 cost blocker. That's a level 4, so that's pretty nice. Really good at getting maybe Chimeramons out pretty fast, or just having a really cheap blocker out on board can be really helpful. Other than that, this card isn't too great. You do lose 2 memory when attacking, so you can't really rely on it too much. Even if it has like reboot, you still have to spend that 2 memory just to attack, and it's not that great. Diaboromon has its own strategy for blockers, so it doesn't really need to rely too heavily on this thing. However, a 4 cost level 4 blocker is still pretty solid. And lastly, we have our other promo Curse Saruman. So he costs 4 to play as well, which is pretty nice. 2 to Digivolve, he has 5k DP, and his inheritance says all turns. All your Digimon with the same name as this Digimon gain Decoy Black and White. So that is actually pretty solid. All your tokens basically become protection for all your other Black and White Digimon on board. So it can be a really helpful card. Again, just like with EX1 Curse Saruman, it's not something you're going to heavily rely on, so you probably want to run like 2 in your deck. But overall, it's a pretty solid card, and it does help Diaboromon create some pretty defensive situations. And the artwork is really cool too. Alright, now on to our level 5s. Our Inframons of the Archtype. So here's BT2 Inframons. We cost 7 to play, 3 to Digivolve. He has 6k DP, and he says your turn. When this Digimon digivolves into a Diaboromon in your hand, reduce the memory cost of the Digivolution by 1. So this is a really solid Inframon. I'd say it's a pretty solid staple for the deck because it essentially makes our Diaboromons cost 2 to play. Unless you're running the first Diaboromon release, he cost 4 to Digivolve originally, so you're just going to make him cost 3. But you don't really run that Diaboromon because he's a pretty slow card, but we'll get to them later. So yeah, in my opinion, this is the Inframon to play. The other Inframons are pretty solid, but this one just takes the cake. It's just really solid card. It essentially makes all your Diaboromons cost 2 to Digivolve into, and that's really, really handy. Card's also really nice, and I know it's interesting because the card game is still pretty new, but this card's starting to feel a bit nostalgic for me. Diaboromon was one of the first decks I ever made, and man, it's really I just really love this card. It's just really cool looking. So next we have Inframon from BT5. So he costs 7 to play, 3 to Digivolve. He has 6k DP, and he says your Kuromon can Digivolve into this card in your hand for a memory cost of 4, ignoring this card's Digivolution requirements. Which is pretty great. Warp Digivolving is always nice. And his inheritance says, on deletion, you may play 1 Diaboromon token without paying its memory cost. So this is a pretty solid Inframon as well. Being able to warp from a Kuromon can be pretty handy. However, it only works if your Kuromon's in the battle area. This doesn't work in the breeding area. You're only really doing this if you like have a Kuromon out and you don't have your level 4s. And in my opinion, the level 4s in the Archetype have some of the most important effects. So skipping those level 4s can be pretty hurtful for your stack. It's not a bad card. It can be a great one of. The inheritance is really good, being able to play a token just because your guy died, which can be pretty handy. However, there's just better Inframons in my opinion. Warping is pretty cool, but missing out on these effects can, like I said, be pretty harmful for your stack. Could even lose you the game. So yeah, Inframon BT5, I mean, it's not a bad card, but currently, I just don't see a place for it in the deck. I still feel like it's outclassed by older and better Inframons. And even the newer ones too, like Inframon from EX1. So he costs 8 to play, 3 to Digivolve. He has 7k DP, and he says opponent's turn, once per turn. When an opponent's Digimon digivolves into a level 5 or higher Digimon, gain 1 memory. And then his inheritance says all turns. All your Digimon with the same name as this Digimon get plus 2000 DP. So he basically has the baby inheritance, which is, pretty nice, whatever. This effect though is really, really fun Being able to make your opponent essentially pay an extra to Digivolve can be really frustrating and even cost them the turn. If you're trying to play a more defensive and more like disruptive Diaboromon, this is a fun card to play because then you're just annoying your opponent. You don't really care too much if you're spending a little extra memory because this guy just makes your opponent annoyed. So yeah, a pretty decent card for the archetype and a pretty decent option for any Diaboromon deck you want to run. And lastly, we have the promo Infamon. So he costs 7 to play, 3 to Digivolve. He has 7 KDP. He says on play, trigger Digivolve 1 on one of your opponent's Digimon. So this is just the worst Infamon. 7 memory to Digivolve something. It's not that great. There's an option card in this archetype that can take this role and just does it even better. Yeah, again, you want to hard play this guy to get the effect off, and Diaboromon's all about building that stack and getting these nice effects. So this card doesn't really have a role, in my opinion, in any Diaboromon deck right now. Maybe one day, if new support allows you to hard play these things for free, but until then, this card just kind of sucks. Artwork is cool though. It is a really cool looking card. Alright, on to our level 6s and the main guy himself, Diaboromon. So here's Dio from BT2. So he costs 14 to play, 4 to Digivolve. He has 10 KDP. He says, when attacking, you may play 1 Diaboromon token without paying its memory cost. In all turns, when this Digimon will be deleted in battle, you may delete one of your other Diaboromon to prevent this Digimon from being deleted. So this card looks really cool, but that's really all it's got. I think this is a really slow Diaboromon. It has built-in protection, which is nice, and it can spam tokens, so it can keep protecting itself. However, I do think there are other Diaboromon that have better roles for the deck, especially because Diaboromon seems to be leaning towards a more defensive archetype. Also, he's got 10 KDP. He's a weak boy. He's just not a very good Diaboromon in my opinion. And yeah, you can buff him, and yeah, you can keep protecting him, but I just don't think the resources are worth it to keep this guy on the battlefield and to keep swinging with him. He also costs 4 to Digivolve. He's the most expensive Diaboromon in the game. Honestly, I don't think he lives up to the cost and the weakness that he has. So next we have Diaboromon from BT5. So he costs 11 to play, 3 to Digivolve. He has 11 KDP, and he says when Digivolving, you may play 1 Diaboromon token without paying its memory cost. So for a while, this was the main Diaboromon you would play. You Digivolve into this dude, and with your erratas, you'd play multiple tokens and just get these really sweet effects off. However, as time has moved on, I feel like this guy has kind of been outshined by a later Diaboromon. It's still a really great card, and I still love it. This artwork is fantastic, but you don't necessarily need to run this card in your deck anymore because there's better Diaboromons that do better things for you. And one of those would be Diaboromon from EX1. So he costs 12 to play, 3 to Digivolve. He has 11 KDP. He has a security effect that says at the end of the battle, you may play 1 Diaboromon token without paying its memory cost, which is really solid. And then he has an opponent's turn that says all your Diaboromon gain blocker. This is the main Diaboromon you want to play. Giving all your tokens blocker is so amazing, especially if you're running some cards like Toy Agumon to give this guy like reboot. Then you have this really powerful reboot blocker Diaboromon that can do some pretty good damage. In my opinion, because Diaboromon I think is more defensive, this is the Diaboromon to play. Gives you all the defensive stuff you need, gives all your guys blocker, and if it happens to be in your security, you get a free token, which is really awesome. That's really helpful in the deck. Another really cool thing about this Diaboromon is it's got the really nice classic alternate art. I really love the look of this card. It's nostalgic and it's beautiful. So yeah, that's Diaboromon Classic Collection. I think it's the main Diaboromon you should be running in your deck. However, there's one more Diaboromon that you absolutely want to have in your collection, and you definitely want to be running in your deck, and that is the promo Diaboromon. So this guy costs 11 to play, 3 to Digivolve. He has 11 KDP, and he says, your turn. For each Diaboromon you have in play, this Digimon gets security attack +1. And that includes himself. So right off the bat, he gets security attack +1. But generally, by the time you're Digivolving into Diaboromon, you should have your tamers out, which lets you generate multiple tokens. So realistically, this guy's probably going to be having around security attack +2, 3 even. There's been situations where I've had this guy have security attack +9. It's pretty nuts how ridiculous this card can be. He can be a bit weak. He has 11 KDP, but with all the support he can get, you can protect him pretty reasonably. The biggest weakness for Diaboromon is the fact that they just don't have enough support. They haven't gotten any serious support since BT5, and it's pretty disappointing. As one of the first Diaboromon cards, it's still one of the best Diaboromon cards. It's an incredible card, and If you don't have this, you need to have this. It can be a pretty insane powerhouse, especially if like you have your level 5 just sitting in the back there, just waiting till you get like the perfect Diaboromon. You bring him out, you pop this guy out, and then you suddenly have like a security attack plus 5 Digimon. Yeah, promo Diaboromon definitely should have like maybe like 2 in your deck. If you want to go aggressive, run 3 or 4. Whatever. Do what you want. This is a really powerful card, and there's some pretty cool like stamped and like foil versions of this one too that you should definitely try to get. Next up is our only level 7. This is Armageddon. So it costs 15 to play, 3 to digivolve onto a black or a white level 6. He has 15 KDP, and he says, when playing this card from your hand, you may delete one of your Diaboromon to reduce this card's play cost by 12. Then he's got Rush, and then all turns. The digivolving effects of level 7 Digimon don't activate. So this is a pretty nifty and pretty cool card. Being able to just shut down level 7s essentially is really cool. A lot of level 7s have one digivolving effects, so being able to just stop your opponent from activating those is really nice. You can just delete a token and play this guy for 3 memory, and then he's got Rush. You can just swing to your opponent. It's a really cool card. It's not something you're going to rely too heavily on. It's more like a 1 of or maybe a 2 of in your deck, and you're not going to be digivolving into him. You're just going to be sacrificing one of your tokens to play this guy for 3 memory, which is insane. Yeah, it's a really cool card, and honestly, I look forward to seeing what a future Armageddon can do, because this card's already pretty cool. So next we have our only tamer in the archetype so far. There's Arata Sonata. So he costs 3 to play. He says, start of your turn. If you have a Digimon with unidentified in its traits in your trash, gain 1 memory. And then your turn. When one of your Digimon digivolves into Diaboromon, you may suspend this tamer to play 1 Diaboromon token without paying its memory cost. And then his security effect plays himself for free. So this is a pretty solid card. Gives you some nice memory, and then lets you play those tokens, baby. By the time you have like 2, 3 of these guys on the board, you're gonna be getting some nice rewards off those tokens. However, that's also just another downside to the deck. It relies heavily on this tamer, and it just slows the deck down a bit. The archetype is really cool, but at the same time, it's missing out on some serious modernization. I really love the box topper here though. Arata looks really cool in this art. He's a cool dude. He was really cool in the Cyber Sleuth game too. You're going to run 4 of him. It's a mandatory tamer for the deck. Giving that memory boost is nice, but being able to play all those tamers every time you digivolve is what you really want. Yeah, pretty decent card, I guess. Not as good as it could be. And lastly, we have our option cards. So here's Spider Shooter from BT2. So it costs 3 to play. It says main, trigger, digivolve 1 on your opponent's Digimon. It's just a pretty simple digivolve 1 on your opponent's Digimon. You're just trashing the top card of their Digimon, so it's just 1. You're not really doing too much damage. For 3 memory, it's not too bad. It activates into security, so that can be pretty decent. However, it's probably the worst option card in the archetype. There's another option card that does digivolve and it does a lot more damage. But I mean, it's not a bad card. It's just, in my opinion, not really something worth looking at. So here's Catastrophe Cannon from BT5. So it costs 4 to play, and it says main, trigger digivolve 2 on one of your opponent's Digimon. Then, if you have a Diaboromon in play, you may play 1 Diaboromon token without paying its memory cost. So this is a really solid card. Being able to digivolve 2 on one of your opponent's Digimon is pretty nice, but playing that token is really solid. It also activates in the security, of course, which is really nice. The only downside to this card is that you have to have Diaboromon in play in order to get that token. But other than that, this is a pretty decent card. 4 cost, I think, is pretty generous. Yeah, it's a pretty solid card. However, there is one card in this archetype that is pretty infamous, and that is Ultimate Flare. So this card's from BT5. It costs 8 to play, and it says main, trigger digivolve 3 on one of your opponent's Digimon. Then delete all of your opponent's Digimon with play cost 3 or less. And then it activates its main effect in security. So especially back in the day, this card was crazy. It pretty much destroyed Rookie Rush, because if this card was in your security, their whole board was wiped. Digivolving by 3 is still really great. You can disrupt some pretty nice stacks from your opponent with that effect. This card used to be better back in the day. It's still a great card. It's just not as good as it used to be. So overall, I think it's a pretty solid card. It's just not something you're going to heavily rely too often on. Like I said, it's a good card. Just don't rely too heavily on it. So that's the Diaboromon archetype. It's a solid archetype. It's not bad. It's got some nice gimmicks. Nothing else does tokens yet. However, it's in serious need of some upgrades. The deck is very slow. There's not much you can do other than just try to spam as many tokens as you can while you have Diaboromons out. And honestly, most decks now just win by having their boss cards out, and Diaboromon does not really have that kind of strategy. It relies more on having multiple pieces on the board, and it doesn't have a reliable way of playing those pieces very fast. You're mostly relying on your tamers to play those tokens. Diaboromon just has been outpaced in the current meta. But hey, it's still a great deck. It's still fun to play, and I still love Diaboromon to bits and pieces. So I'll do a quick deck profile of my current deck right now. I haven't changed it much since my last deck profile, so I'll just squeeze it in at the end of this video here. So this is my Diaboromon deck. I haven't really spent too much time with it. I haven't play tested it too much, so don't use it as like a super reliable source. Just kind of use it as a blueprint, which you should probably be doing with all decks anyway. So we got 4 Sunamons, which are the BT5, the draw power ones. They're just great. Being able to draw every time you attack is really, really handy. Of course, we got the Kuramon Searchers. You need those. We have 4 of the Kuramons from BT2 that let you draw. It's really a handy card. It's really nice to get all that draw power because, again, Diaboromon is slow, and if you can get as much draw power as you can, then you should take it. And then we're gonna run 4 Toy Agumons from BT2. He gives your guy reboot. It's a really nice inheritance, and giving your Diaboromon reboot is really handy. Now to our level 4s, we're running 2 of the promo Kurisarimons. I think 2 is a pretty solid number for the card. You're not going to rely too heavily on it. It's just for protection, and you really just need 1 in your stack to be able to use it. Next, we also have 2 of the EX1 Kurisarimons. Again, we're only going to run the 2 because you're going to really just want one in your stacks, so you're not going to rely too heavily on it. You really could just cut this down to 1 and maybe toy around with some other ratios, but for now that's just what I got. Then we got 4 of the BT2 Kurisarimons. Essentially, whenever you play a token, you get a memory, so I think that's an essential card for the deck. Same with BT5 Kurisarimon. It plays in a route if you don't have one in play, and then you get the rush, which is really solid. Definitely a staple for a Diaboromon deck. So next on our level 5s, so I have Chimeramon here. Since you're playing level 4s so often, and you could play, and there are a few of them that do cost 4 to play, I figured being able to double up on your Kurisarimon effects can be really powerful. And yeah, Chimeramon really helps make the deck go a little crazy. Maybe run 3, but I think 2 is a pretty solid number. Like I said, I haven't spent too much time being able to play test the deck, but I think Chimeramon's a game changer for Diaboromon. Being able to build a stack where you literally you're gaining 2 memory per token now is crazy. So next we have the BT2 Infamon. Being able to reduce Digivolving into Diaboromon is really solid. I think this is a staple for the archetype and for the deck. You should be running 4 because I don't think any other Infamon's really needed. This guy really just helps you get to Diaboromon faster, and I think that's really all that matters. So now under our level 6s, we have 2 of the promo Diaboromons. Again, this will be your main powerhouse Diaboromon. He gets Secure Tech +1 for each Diaboromon you have in play. So you're going to be swinging big with this guy. And as long as he can survive the checks and security, you're going to be doing lots of damage and potentially really fast too. Our last Diaboromon is we're running 4 of the EX1 Classic Collection because it gives all your Diaboromons blocker, and that is so underrated. Think about how often you do play tokens in this deck. When you digivolve into this dude, you're probably spawning 2 tokens with them, and that's just 2 blockers right there. Oh, that's 3 essentially, because he also gives himself blocker. Really great Diaboromon. I think it's the best Diaboromon we have so far. Also, he puts a token from security, which is awesome. Our only level 7 in the deck is 1 Armageddon. He's just really great for shutting down your opponent's level 7s. And again, you're spamming tokens, so being able to play this guy for 3 memory and just rush your opponent is really solid. So for our tamers, we're running 2 Analog Youth. 2 memory to reveal the top 3 cards and add any Digimon is really nice. You're also trashing, so it helps set off Arata Sonata if you get that unidentified in your trash faster. It also has a pretty handy effect that if your level 5 or higher Digimon with any sources under them is deleted, you gain a memory, and then you can hatch an egg in any of your empty zones, which can be useful. This guy's great for just the search power, and then being able to load some cards in your trash, which you do want to have. So of course we're running 4 Aratas. Yeah, he's the main token generator, so you want to have as many of these guys out as you can. If we could run more than 4, then I think we would. But hey, being able to generate 4 tokens just by digivolving is pretty mad. For options, we're running 2 black memory boosts. Really great search power. The only white Digimon in the deck are some of the Diaboromons and then Armageddon. So you can search everything else with this guy. Yeah, memory boosts are fantastic cards, and you definitely want to run these in your deck. I also have 2 Breath of the Gods because I thought it'd be pretty fun. It's a 2 cost. It gives you guys reboot, and then it says this Digimon can't have its DP reduced or be returned to its owner's hand or deck till the end of your opponent's next turn. And then security also says your opponent's Digimon can't attack players for the turn. So it's just a really sweet defensive option card. Reboot's a really great effect, and then just being able to make any of your Digimon just essentially be permanently on the board for a turn is really awesome. Essentially making your opponent swing into a Digimon to get rid of it is pretty dope. So we're gonna run 2 of that. And then we also have 2 ultimate flares, which, you could probably cut this down to 1 and maybe boost up something else, maybe another Breath of the Gods, or maybe another one of these, but we'll get to that later. Yeah, Ultimate Flare is a pretty solid card though. Being able to Digivolve 3 is really great, especially in a meta where people are trying to build big fat stacks, especially like in the breeding area and they're waiting for the right moment to attack. If this thing shows up in the security, it could just ruin their strategy. So it's still a really solid card. I just feel like you don't have to rely on it too much. And lastly, we have Kongu. Kongu's a really solid card. It costs 2 to play. It says main, until the end of your opponent's turn, your opponent's Digimon with play cost 7 or less can attack players, and cards can be added to security stacks by your opponent's effect. Then its security's effect also activates main effect. So just another good defensive option for Diaboromon. Like I've been saying throughout the video, I think Diaboromon works best as a more defensive deck, and then swarming your opponent once you have enough guys on board to just nuke their security. This card definitely gives you time to set up. It's a really powerful card. Maybe 2 is even a better option. I'm not entirely sure. More playtesting has to be done, but it's still a great card. I do think it has a place in the deck. So that's Diaboromon. What do you guys think of the archetype? Let me know in the comments below. I think it's pretty solid. Again, it's just not great. It's fallen to the wayside. Bandai, give us support. Give us Kuramon and Diaboromon X. Give Kursarimon and Inframon X antibody forms too. Give Armageddon an X antibody. That'd be really cool. Until then, Diaboromon is just a fun casual deck. You're not going to be winning really much competitive or like top end tournaments with this guy. Maybe you'll get lucky and get some pretty cool wins at your local. But other than that, I don't think Diaboromon's very good. It needs buffs. It needs support. And until Bandai does that, it's just not going to be a great archetype. So that's Diaboromon. So thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate you made it to the end of the video. Smash that like button. Comment down below and let me know your thoughts on Diaboromon. Let me know how you think they should improve the archetype. And also let me know down below what cards you think would fit really well in a Diaboromon deck. And what cards I might be missing out on improving my own deck. So anyway, again, thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!